Hello, everyone. My name is Shamu, and I've been concerned about the quality of education my son was receiving. He was getting good grades, but he wasn't studying. And I wanted to know why. Was it because he was a genius kid, or was it because his teachers were brilliant? And how do I know for sure that the A he was getting in this school was truly the equivalent of an A in every other school? And I was extremely frustrated that I couldn't find the answers. But then I realized from all the people that I talked to that I wasn't alone. Every concerned parent and educator had similar questions. So we put together a team and we started thinking. Our objectives were clear. We wanted to achieve a consistent way to accurately, objectively, and in real time measure the quality of education our children are receiving. And we wanted the results to automatically benchmark the performance of the student as well as the teacher. And this was critical, because unless we understand the performance of the student and the teacher, we cannot fully understand the quality of education they're receiving. Imagine all the schools in Dubai, or in the world for that matter. Every day in every school, there's a teacher doing a quiz or a test for his or her students. The Affect Edu platform collects every question presented on a quiz and the answers of every student to these questions. We store them in a big database, a big data store, and we run analytics on them on a daily basis. We provide the results to all these stakeholders so that they can make informed decisions whenever they need to, free of charge and in real time. One of the features, the unique features in our system, is our ability to compare and benchmark educational data without the need for standardized tests or external examinations. We can compare the performance of every one of these entities with similar schools in different school districts, similar entities in different school districts, different schools, and different countries even. And we can do the comparisons backward in time. We tested our platform with a school here in Dubai. And from the very first test, the teacher was sitting there. He looked at the screen. He immediately knew what he wanted to do. Within 15 minutes, he created his first test. And when we presented him with the chart, the results, he knew the learning objectives that he doesn't need to worry about anymore. And he immediately knew what learning objectives he wanted to focus. This was great cause for celebration, especially when we knew that we have 160 benefits to 11 stakeholders. But wait, there's more. Another thing that makes our system unique is the way we classify educational data. And one of the ways we do that is by using a variation on Bloom's taxonomy. And what that does gives us a picture like this, where I can clearly see that my son, for example, over all the years of his education and across every subject that he studied, he has performed consistently well when answering questions that measure analytical and understanding skills. But he hasn't done so well when answering questions that measure memory skills. By the time our children approach graduation, they have to make many decisions about their future. The Affect Edu platform provides detailed academic performance data that helps fill in most of the pieces of the puzzle. But the cognitive performance data that we provide helps fill in the missing pieces of the puzzle and allows your child to make the right choices about their future based on their own data and statistics. And if we can do this analysis for your child, we can do it for the entire population. This is the future of education: big data to improve lives and personalized learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Judges, who would like to kick off with the questions?
Who is the decision maker? Is it the teachers or the principals or the districts
So
to use the tool?
Decision maker to use the tool?
To use the tool, yeah.
So ideally, the tool would be used at the school level. Okay?
Not ideally, actually today.
Well, at the school level, ideally, or let me rephrase it. Okay, so it would be used at the school level. Ideally, it would be used at a district level or a country level. Okay? The more data that we collect, the richer the analysis and the richer the comparisons would be. So, but from one school, even if we implement the system in one school, we can still get valuable insights just from the first test.
Who creates the questions of the quizzes? It's already in the platform, or the teacher uploads their own?
So we take in whatever curriculum that the school is using, and the content that they use has usually questions bank available. So we take that in, we upload it into our system and make it available in a very interesting interface for the teachers to use, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. But teachers are also encouraged to add questions to the questions bank, and as soon as they do, it will be immediately available to all other teachers using the system.
And how do you ensure the quality so it's comparable?
That's where our education partner, who specializes in monitoring the quality, reviews the questions, make sure it's tagged properly, and all that stuff.
Just a quick question. Who would you consider to be your competition locally or on a global scale?
Thank you. Excellent question. As far as we know, there is nobody doing exactly what we do at the scale that we do it. There's bits and pieces done by different vendors, different product providers, but at putting it all together at the scale that we do, with the scope that we do, there's no other competition.
What are the technology requirements necessary for a school to implement this?
PC with internet connection.
Any school with internet connection, you do this through a smartphone or a laptop or?
Well, the screen is a bit too small to fit on a smartphone, but on a laptop, definitely yes.
So the school would need enough internet access to power a laptop, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all cloud-based, so there's zero footprint for the school.
I think I heard you say it was free.
Yes. So
where's the money going to come from?
All right, excellent, thank you. So we have a B2C business model. So actually the paying customer for us is the parents. Okay, I'll explain that in a little bit. But it's a freemium business model as well. The free part is everything that you've seen up until the Bloom's taxonomy part, the intelligence part. So the way it works is that teachers, schools, school leaders, and parents can access the system, use the quizzes, create the quizzes, the students answer them, the parents and everybody can do their own analytics on them throughout the year. At the end of the year, if the parents want to store their kids' detailed records so that they have track records year over year, if they want to store them, they have to subscribe with a small annual subscription where we can store these detailed records so that by the time the child approaches graduation, you will have 11 or 12 years of detailed data about every question they were asked and every answer they provided, that you can do analysis and figure out exactly what is the best trajectory for a career path for that child.
How many?
You have one. We have
Okay.
time.
How many users do you have right now, and how often do your best users use the platform?
So, as I said, it's just a pilot right now. It's in a beta stage. So we have 3 teachers using it, about 60 students on 3 different subjects. The beta was intentionally designed with a very limited scope so that we can facilitate the development of it. But it proved the concept beyond our wildest expectations.
Great, thank you very much. Affect Edu. Next up to pitch for you for 5 minutes is a company called FunZ, or FunZ. We'll find out soon. Please come and pitch. Round of applause, please.
Thank you. So it's FunZ. It's actually, I'm not pitching. It is an interesting occasion to talk about how the clicker works. Does it? Yes, good. One backward. So I started looking at education and digital back in 1989. 88, 89. In 2003, I invented the mobile media app. And in 2009, I understood that the world, the education systems of the world, have only two problems. First one is there is no access to education. And the second problem is that the quality of education is poor. And simultaneously, all of these people who do not have access to education learn things. The problem of the world is people learn, but they're not educated. But still they use a tool every day to communicate. And that is what FunZ does. FunZ is a mobile learning service that has been scientifically and practically proven, verified, to deliver scalable learning outcomes. What it means is we can access users and get users using any mechanism, ranging from SMSs to boring radio ads. We have a methodology and a pedagogy, or whatever you call it, a mechanism of transforming existing educational content into a service that people use, return to, and change their behavioral patterns upon. And then we have a mechanism of validating and certifying that they have acquired these skills. We have two so-called competitive advantages, as this is a pitching format. First one is a mobile pedagogy that allows us to say that this actually works. And the second thing is it actually works on all of the devices that are connected and have a browser. The benefits over anything and everything that exists on the planet, or in the universe, because we know of nothing else, right, is the scales. You've seen the power of mobile applied on all of the other industries, and now on learning, our mechanism scales. And I'm not talking about the thousands of mobile learning projects that we've researched that haven't scaled but have worked. Because there's a big difference between working and scaling. We scale without losing the impact, the effect of scale, the impact, right? FunZ can be used in two types of formats. One is mobile learning only, where people have access only to a mobile device, where the education system is non-existent, or it can be used as an extension or enhancement, like a super drug on education systems. Key data points prove and verify that we would be successful even as a mobile game, but that's irrelevant. We work as a small group of Finns, an international team. Our aim is to serve 1 billion active users with a group of 100 employees. Examples of our service is, for example, in Syria, UNDP uses FunZ to deliver education and learning to places where no one else would go to. And in Finland, the refugee population who had lost their academic papers somewhere on the way teamed up with a local university and us to give these refugees an opportunity to be employed. Now, we have accessed the market from outside the school system, but now, today, I'm glad to announce that we're entering the classic education system. We're entering the education system with the introduction of a science and a subject called future. In collaboration with UNESCO, Chair for Futures Learning and Education, we are launching a course in June that will teach the kids, the users, about future. Because the concept of the future is of importance. In today's world where reality is defined by some of the past and some of the future condensed into now, your understanding of the future and that you have the power in your hands is of great and utmost importance for the individuals who are struggling with how to cope with the future. Our business model to get into the market of 5.5 billion users consists of 3 channels: public sector, private sector, and the UN system. Our same business model of providing a SaaS model for the contents with a subscription model for the end users has been validated in all of these 3 models. We're about to become cash flow positive, and we're doing something that hasn't been done before. That is why, when you're looking at will we make it, you're looking at the future of humanity. Thank you.
Great. Let's. Any questions from the judges?
What is your global concentration?
We've been used from all countries except for North Korea.
Can you talk a little bit more about where you're more concentrated versus not? I saw you had a lot of Kenya sort of feedback from users. You remind me a lot of Ineza, which is why I'm curious.
Yeah, we started our development in Sub-Saharan Africa, then we moved to the nomadic setting of refugee population, starting within the European Union, then moved to the crisis sector, where we are actually developing and implementing services in the crisis countries of the Middle East. We're looking at expanding into Asia in collaboration with ADB, but the fact is that we have two core focus areas. One is entrepreneurship, and the second is employability of the future. So these two things have to be taken care of with local partners. And the search and looking for local partners, such as, who are globally relevant, is time-consuming and doesn't happen overnight.
What's the content of the courses that you're being using, and how do you know if not only the kids completed or the adults completed, but if they learned?
An excellent question. We have quantitative and qualitative feedback mechanisms. We have baselines that we compare with existing and other services, and then we have interviews that we do. So we have a feedback loop that actually validates the learning. Learning outcome is defined as something where people acquire skills or attitudes and change their existing behavior and have results that can be measured. The contents that we have been dealing with range from entrepreneurship, that is like high-level kind of a thing, to actually skills, where actually true skills have been delivered that have changed the way communities work.
You spoke just now about some qualitative KPIs. What would you consider your top financial KPI?
Top financial KPI is whether humanity is willing to spend $1 a month per user in delivering education, because that's sort of the KPI, that is the cost level that we need. But building a different kind of a delivery mechanism is somewhat cumbersome, because there's so many people who are looking at their jobs and being afraid of what they will do in the future.
How do you measure the behavior change?
By quantitative and qualitative feedback loops.
Like specifically, what with your existing customers, who changed their behavior and how did you measure it?
For example, entrepreneurs in outside of Johannesburg, where they were unemployed, have now started companies that employ people. We had 12% success rate in the first batch of 270 people. So that's 32 companies. 11 were successful after 12 months, and they employ currently 400 people.
Okay. 11 companies were started based on this curriculum?
32 were started, and 11 are successful after 12 months.
Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.
Isn't that more like a 30% success rate?
No, the underlying number was 270.
Oh, sorry. Right.
Which of the 11 is your favorite, and what do they do?
Actually, it's a Portia. She was a good cook. She had lots of kids, and now she has a catering company that actually uses unemployed youth also to deliver food. So she has like secondary and primary like employment activities. So she's cool. She's cool. Go to Portia. Portia's shop is actually there outside of Johannesburg in the township.
Final questions, anyone?
In that case, what was the entrepreneurship curriculum that Portia learned?
She used a combination of our Founder 101 that we developed with Alta University and Stanford University, and then a business model canvas implementation locally in that setting.
Okay. Oh, one more question.
One more, since we have time.
I can sing if you want.
I'll give you the mic just now. Amongst the three target markets that you define, private sector, public sector, and multilateral organizations, which one would you say constitutes your biggest market at this point in time, and where do you see it going in the next 5 years?
We are currently, if I look at the orders or the procurement process where we have agreements in procurement, I'd say that the governments are financially. We have a large deal going.
Okay, we have some numbers.
We are looking at 2.5 million in revenues for this year. There is a procurement with the Turkish government, European Union. But UN system in 3 to 5 years, I'd say it's 150 million. And then the private sector is going to scale, but that's going to be also the most competed, because there we don't have any super advantages like we have in the two markets of governmental and so I see the business-to-business market not that interesting for us in the long term.
In terms of marketing, do you typically work through your partners to get the word out, or how are people hearing about your courses?
Can we just get a short answer because we're out of time?
Yes, we've used Facebook, all kinds of Facebook campaigns. We're most efficient in acquiring users. At a cost of 1 cent a click, we get users to participate in the courses.
Thanks very much,
Thank
FunZ. Well done. Right, next up, everybody, is let's hear now for Teach Me Now. Teach Me Now. Come on up. Big round of applause, everybody. Come on.
Hi everyone, my name is Taya and I am the proud founder of TeachMeNow.com, a global marketplace platform that connects teachers, learners, to students around the world. Let's see if this works. Yes. As an entrepreneur, I've always been solving my own problem. And I'll never forget when I started with 2 students. One had dyslexia and the other had ADD. And they were both predicted to fail their economics exams. Now I had 2 months with them, and I will never forget standing there on their graduation day, watching them graduate. That was my first light bulb or aha moment, when I realized the impact that I could have. The more requests I started getting for teaching, the more I started teaching online. So I had Skype, I had email, I had PayPal, I had 100 things to coordinate my online classes. But I was looking for like an Uber or Airbnb sharing economy platform, but for live and on-demand learning. This market is massive, but the most popular online learning solutions have up to a 90% dropout rate, 90. So imagine all that value that we're not capturing. That 90% is here with what we call MOOCs, or pre-recorded video content. Now, don't get me wrong, content is great, but that personal human connection is still very key. And that's what we aim to facilitate with TeachMeNow.com, connecting you to a live expert, mentor, or teacher when you need it. What we built is truly a global marketplace. Our first class happened between a professor in Venezuela teaching a student in Saudi Arabia. And we didn't market to them, they found us organically. For the professor in Venezuela, $35 an hour was a lot of money. For the student in Saudi Arabia, that was a great deal. Last year alone, we've had a single teacher, one teacher, make over $100,000 teaching online through this platform. But what we've built is much more than just a marketplace. We've actually built the technology to deliver the live sessions as well. So as you can see in the pre-recorded video, I'll stand to the side here, you have live audio video chats, interactive documents, whiteboards, embedded videos, and much, much more. The important thing here is the timer up at the corner. So the timer is actually linked to payment. So payment is billed automatically through the platform. You can charge per minute, per session, or can buy a package as well. And teachers are not often the best debt collectors. So this invoicing system is actually very important. And as you can see, this is browser-based, so it works on any device. There's no downloads, there's no updates. Everything works automatically. What you don't see in the background here is a very powerful data and analytics tool. So we collect a lot of data on the sessions as well. So how do we scale? Due to the success of TeachMeNow.com, we had a lot of businesses, schools, and institutions actually coming to us saying, we love your technology, we love the platform, but how can we use it for our users, our students, our teachers? And we started a B2B model, or a B2B version of the software, where we completely rebrand the platform. Our potential competitors actually become our partners, and we get a lot of data from them as well, and they're paying for the service. Here are some of the clients we have so far. We actually have 21 customers, so this slide is a bit out of date now. But notably, one of our most famous customers is Microsoft. You might have heard of them. So they've created their own cloud community through us, where you're actually connecting to a Microsoft expert, learning about their technology. Here's just some of the marketing material that went out as well. So keep in mind that Microsoft, of course, owns Skype, so another video conferencing tool. But the data and analytics part, as well as the monetization, was very key for them. Now, of course, education is about impact, and that's where and why I started. And I'm very proud to say that we actually donate our software to SOS Children's Villages. So they already have a mentorship network where they have corporate sponsors and corporate mentors, and of course, a lot of disempowered youth throughout their network around the world. So they are using this to create their own embedded community as well. Business is, of course, about people, and we have an amazing team based here in Dubai. We've done all of this with less than 8 people. I'm very proud of that. We spent less than $20,000 on marketing throughout this journey, and we've managed to grow how we've grown through a lot of thought leadership, press, and events. So in summary, thank you so much for listening. If you believe in making learning accessible, but also want to help empower and scale other businesses, teachers, teacher entrepreneurs, then help us scale and vote for us. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Teach me now. Let's hear some questions from the judges.
Very nice job on the
Thank you.
presentation.
Thanks.
So beyond the Microsoft, can you talk about some of the other verticals that you're
Yes.
seeing traction, people using the platform?
Can I go back to the slide? Let's see. Can you help me with this slide?
Yeah, I think they're just
Yeah?
doing it now.
Oh, okay. I just want to show you some different logos and talk through the different use cases as well. So let's see. Right, so we do have some customers in the audience, so I'll be careful about that one. But Note is a teacher entrepreneur. She started her journey through Teach Me Now. She loved the software, and now she's built her own brand through us. She has over 3 million views on YouTube and actually created her own teacher entrepreneur success story. She teaches Norwegian. We have Imadrasa, a school in North Africa. So we've translated the whole software to French and to Arabic for them as well. SOS Children's Villages is what I just explained through their mentorship network. NKI is one of the largest distance learning platforms in Norway. So we've also translated the software to Norwegian. We have MedAcademy, which is a medical training institution. So continuous professional learning is also a key driver. And of course, doctors are very expensive, take a lot of time. So that continuous learning is very key as well. And we see a lot of different use cases globally too.
Do you imagine that, or maybe it is being used, from the examples you mentioned, I think you have the Microsoft experts, I imagine,
Yes.
that Microsoft selects and then
Exactly.
they market. But what about if you get to a country and in basic education, can you get like the teachers on one side, that
Yes.
students, are you doing this already?
Yes, so we cross the databases as well. So we can actually supply certain teachers, or our teachers supply to those use cases if they have certain metrics that they want to use. Because we already have a teacher database in store as well. So you can cross-reference ratings, price points, and so on as well. So we have that database crossover as well.
And only for university level or for also for basic level education? Like,
Yes, so we started with high school students. That was our key, so 16 and up. We have seen 6-year-olds and younger students use it, but that's not our key focus because you need to be over a certain age to use this software independently. Although we have seen it work, but that's not our key focus. Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about the number of users and teachers you have on your platform and how you're acquiring and growing both?
Sure. So there's 2 sides to this as well. And of course, some data is confidential because of the clients. But what I can say is that last year we had over 300,000 connections between teachers and students. We actually didn't spend any money acquiring teachers. We physically went out. We do things that didn't scale in the beginning. Physically went out to a lot of the top universities, so Harvard, MIT, LSE, Oxford, and actually recruited a lot of recent graduates, because that was my story. I started as a recent graduate teaching. And I noticed there must be more people like me, people with knowledge, but aren't finding those flexible jobs. And that started a referral mechanism as well. So that was the key part of our growth in the beginning, and then a lot of press and thought leadership as well, and it's grown from there. So SEO is also a big key driver.
You spoke a little bit about your business model, about the C2C and the B2B.
Yes.
Can you just shed some light on the revenue model? So how does it work
Of
in both
course.
segments?
So C2C, we take a 20% upsell. So if you charge $100, we sell it to the student at $120, so the 20% upsell. And then on the B2B, it's a setup fee and a subscription. And the average yearly contract is around $20,000 to $30,000.
And between both segments, which one would you say contributes to your top line more?
Enterprise.
Enterprise.
Yep. And the interesting thing here is as well is we get a lot of the data. So I want to see the data is key in terms of usability, because then we can further improve the product because they use it in different use cases. And then we can also get a lot of feedback from the customers directly saying, actually, we really need this feature. For example, Microsoft asked for an availability feature when you're doing bookings. They paid us for that development, and because of how we've architected the system, we now can deploy that to all of our use cases as well. So that's really interesting that they're paying for us to develop the product, and we're learning from them as well.
Final question.
What's the biggest hurdle you think you're going to face or you're facing right now?
Growth. I mean, obviously, startups always have challenges, but I think our biggest challenge is to grow fast enough. This is a competitive space. Tech is always growing fast. But again, it's growth, and it's being the biggest in the space. Again, we haven't raised any external funding, and we wanted to prove ourselves before we go out and grow further.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Teach me now. Next up, let's hear from a company, I think, based in the UK called Century. Over to you, 5 minutes. Big round of applause. Go for it.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Priya Lakhani. I'm the founder of Century Tech. So 4 years ago, when I was on the Secretary of State's Business Innovation and Skills Advisory Board, I learnt the shocking fact in the UK that 1.8 million children were underperforming in our schools. I also learned that 3/4 of our teachers considered quitting their jobs, and they cited that data management and workload was their biggest reason. So the micro-assessing, micro-marking, constant tracking of data, the progress and achievement of every child when every intervention is necessary was basically allowing them not to teach and spend more time on data management. On further inspection, I also found out that the one-size-fits-all delivery of education, what I'm doing to you right now, is simply inadequate. We have children left behind struggling, and we also have many children who are left under-challenged. And with growing pupil numbers worldwide, falling teacher numbers, and a rise in social mobility issues, I felt compelled to do something about it. And with technology transforming every sector of the world, but in education we've gone from a blackboard to a whiteboard, I wanted to create something different. So we founded Century, a platform that combines artificial intelligence, big data technology, neuroscience, strong pedagogical methods to learn how every brain learns. Now, with Century, the big question was how can you improve learning outcomes and also reduce teacher workload? So Century will track every mouse movement, every click on the platform. And using machine learning algorithms, it will learn how every single one of your brains learns. So when a student like Emily logs into the platform, it will learn her focus levels, her skills, her knowledge, pace of learning, difficulty levels, when something goes from her short-term to her long-term memory. It will then present material to her and use the neuroscience behind interleaving. Does she need a topic in physics because she's actually struggling in an area in mathematics or physics, or does she need to revisit a topic in English literature? It will then learn what type of material should we give Emily, how long should it be, and it will find the most effective material for Emily's brain. On a content-agnostic system that can host any curriculum, any media, teachers will upload their content and their questions, and they can even share it into the public library. Century's analysing every one of Emily's movements on every image, on every word, how long it takes for her to read, and analysing her performance. It then offers Emily personalised feedback, focused on neuroscience in terms of encouragement and growth mindset. Then Mr. Gilmore, her teacher, can log in. He can set assignments, he can use video features and audio features to save him time with natural language processing behind his words, or he can look at his dashboard and in real time see Emily's focus, where she should focus, her strengths, her weaknesses, what she should be challenged on, her knowledge base, her skill set. He can look at every single cohort. He can go into the data. Where is my targeted intervention necessary? Where should I spend my time? There are leadership dashboards so that the senior management team in a school can see this data. The inspectors from the regulator, like KHDA, like Ofsted in the UK, can look at this data and see how they're making targeted interventions. Mr. Gilmore can now spend more time on teaching rather than on data management and workload. So he's going to spend time with Emily, look at her digital CV. That's being stored on a digital ledger on blockchain technology. Every student in the world, every movement is affecting the other students' recommendations, improving learner outcomes, reducing workload, and personalising learning. It was built with teachers, with the sole focus here to fall in love with teaching again. Now, Century has a 100% conversion rate of its schools in its beta group. IBM is using our technology. We white labelled it. We want to be a sustainable, scalable EdTech company, and they're training their employees on using our technology. We're working with the Department of International Development in the UK and launching in Lebanon this year, and proudly in Kenya and in Uganda. So we will reach those 1 billion students. So this is about improving outcomes, improving retention, motivating students, providing a scalable learning environment. We want to predict behaviours After spending 20 minutes on the platform and performing a diagnostic test, can you tell where an individual is heading in their education, and can the machine then intervene? It provides cross-curricular insights. Are you struggling in physics? As I said, because you're struggling in a foundational area in mathematics. It saves time for the teacher. This term alone, the artificial intelligence recommendations have made over 152,000 recommendations. That's in addition to the rule-based recommendations that the system uses, using our human-in-the-loop elements of the platform. 1.4 million question answers, and I think the most important sort of evidence base for us is the fact that we improve understanding of concepts tried in literacy and numeracy of between 29 and 44% per student. So this is about giving access to every child for a top-tier education.
Okay,
so
can you...
Yep. So as a gentleman said in the last session, why do startups fail? Their business models are based on products that no one cares about. Everybody cares about education. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to education in the 21st century. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excellent. Big presentation, goodness me.
Yeah, similar to the TechCrunch Disrupt one.
Fantastic. Questions, anyone?
One of the challenges for companies doing what you're trying to do is for artificial intelligence to kick in, you need a lot of users.
Yep.
And you need a lot of content materials inside, and you have to have like a lot of users for each of them to be able to rate. And so how many people use your platform, how often, and how are you building the content to do all the things?
Yeah, sure. So over the last 4 years, we've got about 100,000 users. We focus specifically on English and mathematics in the United Kingdom. We had those users using the national curriculum. The content question is that teachers were loading content onto our system. I'll be honest with you, at the beginning, we loaded a lot of content on because you're judged on the content by schools, not on the artificial intelligence technology. They don't really quite even understand what that is. They were interacting with every single part of the system. The machine learning kicked in terms of collaborative filtering and regression models in September last year. So we've had those recommendations in there in a smart way since then. But before then, we had the human-in-the-loop element. So on our content management system that can host any curriculum, we had tagged, for example, concepts with prerequisites. So, if you don't know velocity in physics, you might not understand how to solve equations in mathematics. And with those human-in-the-loop elements, we then had training sets of data, and we partnered with UCL. So we were working with some of their DeepMind specialists who basically formed DeepMind at UCL on small data sets, and from there we built the machine learning, and our engineering team is now vast enough so that we're doing all of this in-house.
When you talk about connecting the next billion, how do you plan on connecting those who are offline? And there are many millions who are offline.
That's going to be a struggle because infrastructure is always a struggle. In terms of sort of crossing the chasm, right? My goal right now is to get the innovators and the pioneers and the early adopters. I think in the UK we've got lots of innovators and pioneers in schools, and we actually grow on referrals and then getting the early adopters. Then when we look at countries like Uruguay that have now connected fibre in every school, we look at the Department for International Development's project in Africa where they're actually putting the infrastructure in those schools. I think we'll get them first. And once those are successful and we have evidence, this is all about having data and evidence that it works, I think then it will flow out. So there is no point, I'm not going to focus on how, in a sense, what's very, very hard to reach. With this technology, it's about the low-hanging fruit right now, which in education is already challenging. And then I think in years to come, people are recognizing that the world is changing and they need to build infrastructure. But it's mobile optimized. So the great thing about Africa is that not only are these schools hardwired, but because it's mobile optimized, you can actually reach a lot of people and have scale. So, hi.
Hi. Could you give a story about your favorite customer, teacher, and exactly how they use it? Is it part of the quizzes, all of the quizzes? What percentage of their curriculum over the course of a year is driven through the platform, and then how many other teachers use it like that?
Okay. Oh, so I'm not going to go for the ones that use it so well, right? The flipped learning method, the blended learning method, the ones that know what they're doing. My favorite customer is a college in the United Kingdom. We went to them. What is this? We don't want to use this. It's technology. We know how to teach. That's basically the attitude that we received from them. Most of their teachers were National Union of Teachers representatives, so they're the union teachers, so they're just like, we don't like technology, it's going to replace us, what are you trying to do? In that college, what was amazing, what we learned actually from a year of pain actually with that college, was how to transform mindset and how we can go through the entire customer success journey, because that's what this is all really about, right? And what we found was that blended learning worked really, really well for them. So they have students coming in, headphones on for an hour. These students are failing in literacy and numeracy, and they're already in adult education. So they use it in a blended learning method. The students were learning maths and English on the system. They now have equine theory and all sorts of sort of college courses and, on the system. And what we found in that particular school was then the pioneer teachers went and told other teachers, it's saving me an hour per week per class up to 6 hours. And when they realised they're going to have their Saturday and Sunday evenings back instead of marking and planning, because there's smart planning functions with data on here as well, that then flowed through the college. I'd say about 50% of our institutions use it in a blended learning way, and 50% for flipped. Flipped learning because the majority of the flipped learning institutions are not trying to use this sexy method of flipped learning. They just don't have the infrastructure in the school, so they're sending kids home, learn on your iPads and Chromebooks at home. And there are a couple who are actually using it for flipped learning in the right way in the institution. So I hope that helps in terms of the models.
Okay, we're out of time for the questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our final company to pitch today is called Teach a Class. The floor is yours. Round of applause, everybody.
Okay. Marhaba. My name is Ramna Merchant. After my undergrad in 2015, I started off as a teacher at a Newark charter school in New Jersey in a high crime neighborhood. Today, I implement technology solutions at Teach a Class. So for the past, I was working for about 1 year with Manju Vishwakarma, then a teacher in a low-cost private school in a Mumbai slum. This story is about her. So Manju, for about 2 years, was facilitating an affordable technology classroom, determined to deliver the very best for her students. But early last year, her school refused to pay the $390 to renew their annual subscription. So Manju fought against this, but she failed. And so she left her job, and she also left the school system short of yet another passionate teacher. Teach a Class strives to incentivize superstar teachers like Manju and really use their drive and skills to transform education for the next billion. Teacherclass.org is India's first funding platform exclusively for teachers. And so we are kind of like the centralized hub that connects impactful tools, deserving teachers, and willing donors. Sorry. So the school system lost Manju because they couldn't afford to buy technology. Teach a Class is solving that problem by giving schools access to funds. On a more macro level, there isn't much transparency about the kind of tools that are out there, and more importantly, which tools are effective. So we are solving that problem with partnering with the best education tools, backed up by data, and also supplemented by implementation support. But where our main value lies is in our monitoring and evaluation system, which analyzes performance and serves as a means for us to identify which is the best tool for a classroom like Manju's. So we aggregate education tools and teachers, connect them with donors, and work closely with vendors to implement solutions effectively. And the tools that are listed on our platform ensure impact because they have a proven track record, and we also track their data through our own data mechanism. Our system also collects, it documents a lot of information about the most effective teaching practices as well as what works best in implementation. So really what lies at the heart of this all is our monitoring and evaluation system. So we recently just received a grant of $145,000 to start building out this platform. Our dashboards for our users bring transparency to the system. So it helps us to identify which are the most effective tools out there and which are the best teachers. And also donors have complete visibility about the social impact that they're creating with their funds. So we were inspired by donorschoose.org in the US, and we are taking this one step further. So Zaya, which is our sister concern, invested to integrate its education tools with Mixpanel, which is a data visualization platform. And as a result, it saw 200% productivity growth. So what we really envision is a system that does this for all the education tools out there. So Teacher Class, in its first 4 years of operations, worked purely offline. But now we are completely tech-driven. We're a tech-driven data management and M&E system. And we want to return actionable insights from interventions and act upon them. So this is what our roadmap looks like. We want to integrate with partners in different categories of interventions in the next 5 or 6 years. And our main goal is to impact 3 million students in the next 7 years. In this year itself, we have a pipeline of about 450 teachers. And so far, we have already managed to successfully fund 26 classrooms in the past couple of months since launch. So we believe that data about geographical usage and efficacy is of great value to CSRs, foundations, and government to make informed decisions about how best to move interventions to scale. And so that's where our M&E system would bring value. And funds from corporate social responsibility projects in India would tap into a pool of about $1.63 billion. We're also working very closely with foundations and high net worth individuals. And we strongly believe that the transparency that we're bringing makes us uniquely poised to make a difference. And so our last, sorry about that. And so our big ask from you today is really that we want a matching grant to start building out this M&E system, which is the real value that we're bringing to this fundraising platform. And so we need about $300,000, and we have $145,000 already. And lastly, we just want to help our teachers enhance their superhero powers and help them wear their invisible capes proudly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, questions, anyone?
I think we all know that M&E is a huge challenge in the NGO sector, and it's very unstandardized, and there's not a lot of sort of standard expertise across the space. How are you guys going in and sort of convincing individual organizations to come adopt your system versus just continuing to use what they have for, decades?
Sure, that's a really good question. So as I mentioned, we had a partner roadmap, and we're integrating with tools in different areas of intervention. So the first year, for example, this year we're only targeting tools which focus on literacy and technology. So once we build our framework for our M&E system, so for tools specifically that work online, we would have an API to which they would integrate their tools. And so our point of kind of focusing on one target area, so this year literacy and access, is so that we can do a bit of research, understand what are the standardized metrics that would work best for that area of tools. So we already have about 10 standardized metrics within monitoring and evaluation, but in addition to that, there would be certain metrics which are specific to literacy and access, specific to teacher training programs, and all the other categories that we're focusing on. So our goal is really to standardize our metrics for each and every category of intervention, and that's why they don't have to build a system of their own. We're doing it exclusively for education. And so by listing themselves on our platform, they benefit from all these data, this impact and efficacy data, which they can leverage with governments, with other funders, with other customers. So that's where we believe we bring in strong value.
Just a follow-up question. What are your plans for taking your program or your product beyond borders?
So we are the first raising platform in India for teachers, but we do accept funds and tools from outside India as well. So currently, really, so in terms of our marketing plan, we're really tapping into the CSR market in India to kind of jumpstart all our projects. So we're still in phase 1. But as that kind of begins, we would scale, we would tap into a crowdfunding strategy in addition later on. But yeah, we're not limited to India. We accept tools as well as funds from beyond borders as well. Yeah. Any more questions?
Have you tried getting the software companies themselves to allocate, some percentage of revenue as free licenses for the needy teachers, anything of that sort?
I mean, we haven't specifically looked into that, but essentially we're like this distribution hub or marketplace where we really bring all these stakeholders together. And I think one of the main appeal factors for software companies or tools is that they are getting funding from somebody. There is an assured source of payment. So really the payment is coming from the donors, CSR, the CSR market specifically, because there's so much money, and in the CSR market, about 30% of it goes towards education. So we're really looking to exploit that and get most of our funds from that to start off with. Yeah, that's how it would work.
What are the types of projects that you're seeing most traction on? Like what?
Sure. So we've started off with a personalized learning platform, which has already been used. So we partnered with Teach for India. It's been used in 10 schools there. In India itself, in a city called Hyderabad, there were 10 schools who kind of took up the project. We conducted a randomized control trial with them, run by an external evaluator. That generated a lot of traction. And we also have another device. So that's the primary device. Because it's a personalized learning platform, it's called the Class Cloud, and we see that kind of generating a lot of traction, yes.
Okay, we done with questions? Looks like we are. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Fritz. Thank you. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending our final pitch session. And as I said, there'll be 6 finalists selected from all of the 42 companies that pitched both yesterday and today. And you'll be able to see the final tomorrow morning. The final 6 will be announced tonight at cocktails. And then your final 6 will be pitching tomorrow morning on the main plenary stage. So thanks very much for that. Now, we were now going to reset the room a little bit, but stick around for a couple of minutes because we're now going to put on stage Rish Mitra, who's the co-founder of Blipper, who's an augmented reality app that also moving into the education market. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you.